Right, Chris, let's do some bonus clips, shall we? Yeah.
I think so, because we're running short on time.
Yes, we've been recording for quite a long time today, so let's start off with the one that you found for me, and that is Mr. Lukashenko and Mr. Rene Fasel have been up to some naughty things, ladies and gentlemen. So
yeah, I was very unhappy when I saw this, I'll be honest.
Yeah, so Chris wants to go on a bit of a mini rant, so I'm going to give you the context before this, and then we'll discuss. So the context before I read this article, Lukashenko, the inverted commas leader of Belarus, very controversial election. We're not going into the politics of it. That's not what our area of expertise. And Rene Fasel, the president of the International Ice Hockey Federation, who recently tested positive for COVID and recovered from the coronavirus, he took a trip to Belarus because, you know, the 2021 IIHF World Championships, like we've mentioned pretty much in a bonus clip every single week since we started the podcast somehow, because we want to keep you guys updated because we care about it too. Yeah, he went to go and have a chat with him to kind of decide what's going on here, and the news article I've got says as follows. Hello, my dear. Lukashenko's warm hug for international ice hockey chief leaves Belarusian opposition activists steaming mad. So, Belarusian strongman Alexander Lukashenko greeted the head of the International Ice Hockey Federation in Minsk as if he were welcoming his long-lost brother. Hello, my dear, Lukashenko said as he enfolded Rene Fasel in a massive bear hug on January the 11th. It was a spectacle of a sort rarely seen since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic a year ago. The two maskless men chatted amiably, laughing and holding hands for several seconds before moving on to a more substantial portion of their meeting. Now, obviously, Belarus is set to co-host with Latvia the 2021 World Championships in May and June, but Riga and many other European Union capitals have been calling for them to cancel Minsk's involvement over a brutal crackdown over protesters, political opposition, and how they've handled the virus. But Fasel was in Minsk to discuss the matter, which is expected to be settled on January 25th, 26th. So hopefully we should get to a point where this is finally decided by the end of this month, because they are starting to run out of time now. So that's basically it. Shaking hands, having some hugs, talking to each other like they're long-lost lovers. Chris, take us through your thoughts on this.
Oh, I have many, many thoughts. Firstly, I was very annoyed that he is representing the IIHF, and he stands as the head of all the ice hockey nations who are governed by the IIHF.
Yep.
Now, there are a lot of countries where they are still doing masks, social distancing, all the rest of it to try and help out. And to see him kind of almost run towards the Belarusian leader with arms outstretched, going, "Oh, it's so good to see you," and doing a hug, and, you know, no masks, no nothing.
Yep.
I found it a bit kind of irresponsible from the head of the IIHF, particularly seen as, you know, that's who, even here in Great Britain, you know, that's the top guy.
Yep.
And so I really didn't like that. They then did a Q&A with him. And one of the questions was, with the current issues in Belarus, do you think the visit gave a negative impression? He comes out and says yes. And we regret the negative reaction that was caused by the pictures and videos that came from the meeting. Now, obviously, as you said, the opposition didn't particularly like it. And that's for the political reasons. I don't like it for the health reasons.
Yeah.
But then there's things in the in this Q&A that I'm also a little bit concerned about.
Okay.
There are a couple of things. So they say that they are concerned, deeply concerned, the IIHF says, over the capability of Minsk to deliver the tournament safely in a COVID-19 environment, and there is an ongoing investigation into the Belarusian Ice Hockey Association president, and there's unrest within the country that has impacted the tournament preparations, and there are concerns from teams, fans, government officials, all the rest of it. And they say that they can't ignore the concerns, but they have teams and partners depending on them to find a way to hold a world championship. Now, they made a couple of requests as well, and they didn't. They haven't spoken to the opposition, and they say a lot needs to happen as well. Now, the question that concerns, when they say they're so deeply concerned about holding it in Belarus and all this, they say the first option is to have the World Championship in Minsk and Riga in 2021, and no other options are being considered at this time.
They are
silly. Running out of time.
Yeah, it's a bit silly given that it's January already.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, and apparently it's not discussed that the World Championship could be moved exclusively to Minsk. I think that's very much not being considered, because if you're going to move it exclusively to anywhere, I wouldn't go to Minsk.
Couldn't agree more.
So, yeah. Well, I'm trying to look, and obviously there's the commercial consequences, and they said, how do you assess the COVID situation in Belarus? They say they have received a pledge from the government to follow the guidelines. And then the final question is, what's the status of the investigation into Baskov? And they're still doing their independent investigation because they want to. What the sentence that strikes me here is that the IIHF have now acknowledged the seriousness of the allegations.
What allegations are these? Remind me.
To be honest, I can't 100% remember, but Belarus has agreed to cooperate with the IIHF to evaluate all relevant witness statements, videos, and other evidence. But I don't quite understand why now.
Is this with the Belarusian ice hockey president?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Sorry, that's the bit I was confused about.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, they're now acknowledging that this might be serious with the Belarusian ice hockey leader, and it's taken them a little bit too long to get to that point. So for me to summarize for you guys listening, and for me personally, I think irresponsible, the word you use, Chris, is the perfect one to describe the current situation on the screen that I'm showing, obviously, with Rene Fasel going to... So basically, president of the IIHF, Rene Fasel, went to Belarus to meet with Alexander Lukashenko, the president or the person in charge there. They hugged, maskless, all of this stuff. Obviously, health and safety-wise, considering COVID is still a thing, and it's causing some problems, or is still causing some quite major problems around the world. A lot of people are being like, guys, really? Like, come on. Now, obviously, some of you might argue, yeah, whatever, like, come on, they're two grown adults, they can do what they want, yeah. Rene Fasel's had COVID. Like, he's a guy, he's not young. Neither of these guys are particularly very young, let's be honest. They're kind of, they're getting on a little bit now. So, these are kind of the demographics that should be thinking about this stuff more than anything and taking those extra precautions. That's not to say that young people shouldn't. They should play their part also. But given the fact that it's these two older men meeting, I mean, let's not have them. And we've seen, obviously, or there's been reports that you can get it more than once. So does Fasel want it again? I mean, it's not really a smart idea. I've had it and I didn't really have a good time with it. So maybe not. But they met, and then Chris mentioned a Q&A that Rene Fasel did, and basically they haven't really decided anything yet. And I thought they were going to have had a decision, but they've got the chance to make a decision within the next 2 weeks or so. So basically, to summarize all of this, we're going to know what's going to be happening with the 2021 World Championships, whether it's going to be held in Riga and Minsk, or if there's any other change to what we're expecting. We're going to find out by the end of January, most likely. I think that's it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I found interesting from it is that the two takeaways I've got is he kind of regrets going, and they haven't made a decision yet. Those are kind of the two things. So it's not painted the IIHF or Fasel in any glory in the last few days. Let's put it that way.
No, and I was going to say, like, if he regretted going and kind of doing what he did, and they haven't made a decision, they've known the situation for the last 6 months. We've been talking about it since we started this podcast, which was in late August of last year. So August, September, October, November, December. Yeah, it's half a year since we started this podcast, which is crazy to think. But half a year since
it's not got any better.
And nothing's changed, and they still haven't made a decision. It's kind of like, why did you go in the first place then, you idiot? Like, you've known the situation. Like, what's going on?
My opinion is that they've got to pull it out of there, because I don't think it's going to get any better. Certainly not for them to put anything security in. And I think I don't want, but I can see it happening, countries and kind of the country governing bodies going, look, we can't, we cannot guarantee the safety.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing. I mean, if we look at the tournaments for the World Championship, I can't remember which group it is which group is in the is going into Minsk and which is going into Riga. I don't know if you can remember or not.
No, I just really hope GB's going to Riga.
Let me have a look.
I really hope GB are going to Riga.
It's not been announced yet, but
okay.
Can you imagine, like, your America, your Canada coming across and going into Belarus at the moment? Because I can't.
No,
I mean, I would imagine that. I'm actually looking at it. I mean, the group with Belarus is going to be in Belarus, isn't it?
Yeah, very true.
And which is GB's group.
No.
So, but if I'm the Great Britain players and all the rest of it, it's like, would I want to go there? And it's difficult because you want to play in the World Championships, but at the same time you want to be safe.
Yeah, and I think also the most important thing that I'm gathering from all of this is, you mentioned how Rene Fasel's been given a pledge from the Belarusian government that they're going to make it safe for the players and everybody participating, and they're going to make it like COVID compliant with whatever regulations they need to have put in place. This is the same federation that the guy running the Belarusian Federation is currently under investigation. So it's kind of like, I'm not really sure I believe that.
Yeah, and I've never ever heard of a government around the world not delivering on a promise before.
No,
never heard of that.
Telling me politicians and people in charge are a bunch of liars, Chris?
We're going to get sent to the tower before too long.
We really are, aren't we? and all it was is because Rene Fasel wouldn't make a decision on where the World Championships is going to be this year. Like, if you're going to keep it in Minsk, just say it's staying in Minsk. Like, we don't need to keep beating around the bush at this point. It's been too long since when we've been sat here every single time. Admittedly, we've been seeking out this news because we've wanted to keep people updated. Because, yes. I mean, for our North American audience, not so much, but for the rest of the world, basically, their World Junior Championships is our World Championships. They don't care about the World Championships as much as the World Junior Championships. The rest of the European countries, the World Championships is the best we've got. We really care about it, especially a country like GB that don't get to go into it very often. We know how lucky we are to be there. And the fact that they're basically just being very blasé about it. Like, we mentioned 3-4 months ago how they said they have a lot of time to make this decision. And Chris and I sat, and Chris was the first person to say it, sat and like, yeah, they're right. They have some time. They have the ability to make the right decision and kind of look at all the different options. But from the Q&A that you said that Rene Fasel had, they're not really considering any other options at the moment. So, like, what are we doing here, guys? Are we just going to be going business as usual?
A few months ago, when they said they were going to see how things went, we said that they were making the right decision. Now they're making the wrong decision, in my view.
Yeah, I think I don't have anything against Fasel or the Belarusian government. I'm not interested in the politics of Belarus. I've got to be perfectly honest. That's not my concern here on this podcast or in general. I'm concerned about the World Championships, and at the moment, they need to make a decision. Yeah, we've still got a few months to go, but I mean, it's January, February, March, April, May. We've got 4 months till the competition begins, and they still haven't decided where they're actually hosting it. That's a bit of a problem because, I mean, completely take the COVID situation out of it, Chris. Like, they've got to do all of that stuff and get that stuff figured out, and they've actually got to decide a country that isn't having political protests to put it in, or they're going to keep it in the country with political protests.
There's so much. There is a reason that they announce where the World Championships are going to be, like 4 years ahead.
Yes.
It's like why you announce the Olympics 7 years ahead. It takes time to say, right, where are we going to house all of the players? Where are we going to house all the officials? How are we going to sort transport? How are we going to do this? So they are severely running out of time to move it. But rant over for this week, at least.
Yes. I mean,
we'll move on.
You got me involved in the rant, so I'm happy to have a good old rant every once in a while. But basically, long story short, Fasel, figure it out. Come on, it's been long enough. It's been half a year since all of this drama started. Figure it out, decide where you're putting it. If you're leaving it in Minsk, just let it be known that you're leaving it in Minsk so then the individual countries can make their own decisions. Okay, rant over.